Hey, folks, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. This is your host, Tracy Hayes. Best of the best in each show. And once again, I have brought you another best to you today. This influencer has made her mark here in Northeast Florida in the title company area. She has a couple decades of experience in the real estate industry, from running title companies to even running a branch of a major bank. I work with her daily as we are both married to a major builder in the area. And I will say this, when in doubt, call Lisa Andrews. Folks, let's welcome my favorite title leader to the show and very talented. And this title is very actually, she has a title, but let me tell you, it's the jack of all trades. Director of Sales and Marketing at Golden Dog Title, Lisa Andrews, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Tracy. It's great to be here today.
Excellent. I'm so glad because you have so much, and we've chatted at different times. And you really, in a panic situation, as we deal with here at Jet and getting a lot of these closings, of course, everyone seems the builder wants to close everybody on the last day of the month. And, how you guys do it down there. And I know you are really the captain of the ship. At least we see it from up here, and making sure that no one goes outside and never comes back.
Right. Yeah, we don't want that to happen.
Right. Because I imagine that thought has gone through some people's head in that last day of the month, and the overwhelming is just like, I'm done, I'm out of here. But you guys do get it done month in and month out. But I wanted to start off, because this is a common question I know you get all the time. Golden Dog Title. Give us the background of where that name came from.
So when we first started out, that was not the name. And the president of our company came from a big attorney firm downtown, overlooking the river. And when he came to start here, he had a small office, probably the size of, anybody's cube. And his daughter came in to work one day, and she's like, "So, Dad, what do you do now?" And so he told her, what he did, and he helped people get into a brand new home and what that was like and everything. And so she thought people should get a dog whenever they close. So when they get a brand new home, they get a dog with it. So he told her that, that not everybody wants a dog, and maybe that's not a good thing. And, so they went on to open under a different name. Mm-hmm. And as he thought about it over a year or so, he thought, that kind of makes sense. And when you go to a closing, you need your realtor, you need your lender, you need your builder, everybody needs to come together. And you kind of have like that service dog. Not every service dog is a golden retriever.
Right.
Although
it's
I have
a very
golden
popular
retrievers.
Yes.
Absolutely. But that's kind of what we do. So we are your companion here to serve, and you have to all come together for, to come to a closing and to buy the house. So it is that his daughter thought of the great name and to get a dog. And if you close with us, everybody gets a little golden retriever.
and that is so, just how that just came. Here the daughter made a suggestion, and then the thought process of what we do, service. That's just a great way, and it is a great icon. I mean, an easy one. It's easy to buy. You get a stuffed animal.
So it's not a real golden retriever. It could look like a golden
people
doodle,
sign up. They're probably
whatever.
like, hey, let's close a golden dog. I get a dog with that.
That's the same as about $2,500, right?
And the great, it's funny that you mentioned that, because right down the street here, K9 for Warriors is, I don't know if they're expanding or relocating, but they're building a complex right down the street here. I don't know if you noticed that.
I did not. I mean, they have a huge complex in Ponte Vedra as it is.
I think this is an expansion just down the street from us, and talk about service, and just to throw their name out there for that. But let's get back on track, though. We want to learn about you, Lisa. Lisa, where are you from?
I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. I was born and raised there for the first 40, and I've been down here for 18.
Okay. All right. Well,
there's my age.
I don't have to ask her. So, I mean, I looked on your LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you have a ton of experience, and generally, someone who has a pretty stout resume doesn't, bother to put education. Did you go to a formal college or anything?
I did not.
You did not.
I did not.
So when you got out of high school and just started doing it, what were you doing in Indianapolis before coming down here?
So I started in banking. Mm-hmm. I've kind of been in the finance part of that. I started in banking, and then I was a mortgage broker back in the late 80s, early 90s. There was like 3 actual mortgage broker companies in Indianapolis, and I was in one of them.
Wow.
And then I went into lending, and we had a title company that used to come in and do all of our closings. And back in that day, as a lender, I had to clear my title myself. I had to give them all the information to say, this is what we will use to clear it off, and then it was done. So then I had kids, left my job, stayed home for about 5 or 6 years.
Sure.
And when I decided to go back to work, I just happened to go to the title company that I had first started, that we had used
Right.
as a lender, and got hired on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know,
Well,
I
it'd be
found,
pretty cool because the lender was doing all the work for you at that time, so you didn't.
Yeah.
It was
I
like,
thought,
hey,
oh, this is going to be cake. But, you know, it was not. Because it made sense, because the lender really shouldn't be the one clearing title for you.
right.
So,
title always be cleared.
Yeah, title needs to clear your own title. So, but that was that, and that was before we got packages overnight. So we didn't have, they didn't come in over the internet or anything. So if you didn't get a package the next day, just didn't close. So that's how long I've been around, Tracy.
Just a comparison, I think now you bring up Indiana and that you did title work there because every state's different. We all know New York's a nightmare. Don't even want to talk about trying to close a home there. What's kind of the difference between Indiana and Florida? Are they fairly easy or are they more complicated like in New Jersey, New York?
They're fairly easy, I'm going to
Yeah.
say. Yeah. But we didn't have a lot of, like Florida, actually, they've had stuff online for a really long time. And most of the states back when I started doing it didn't. So you actually had to go to the courthouse still and pull all your documents and do that whole thing.
Right.
But nowadays it's pretty much the
Technology.
same. Yeah.
The technology's made it easier.
Yeah, it's not like going to New York or California where you have a lot of different.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yep.
So you were right in the real estate industry, in the banking, dove right in the. So you've really spent the last, I'm not going to calculate that, we'll say 40 minus years
Right.
in finance and in real estate.
Right.
Really. I
Yes.
mean, that's a huge amount of experience because, it's funny. I met a title company years ago when I was with my previous employer, and they're in downtown St. Augustine. And I guess when St. Augustine went to, and you probably know who they are, went to, digitize everything. They're putting everything into the computer. They actually, I don't know whether they bought or got a hold of all the old land going back hundreds of years and so forth. So they told me if you ever have a problem, doing this title search and it's not panning out or whatever, that they've got the original.
Oh, they had the original
hopefully
closet,
have
everything.
Yeah, everything in paper. Because I can imagine going. Today I don't think people. I mean, obviously the young people in your office don't even know what the courthouse probably even looks like.
Right. No, absolutely not. They don't have to do that. There's a couple states where they still actually have the whole book and they bring the paper in and add it when there's a new sale or something done. But luckily we don't do that yet.
Yes, that is one thing. So Florida, for those who don't live in Florida, really, all that stuff is public record. What is there anything that we do as far as recording the deed and everything like that isn't actually out on the web?
Yeah,
Or,
no,
on
as
the
far as
concept?
our part, no.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is public record. And there is some law that's out now if you are a public official in law enforcement or
Right,
something like
you
that.
can have
that
it blocked. Yeah.
And that's getting to be easier to get blocked. So that's going to be something that will come up in the next few years that we're going to have to figure out as a title industry of what we're going to do about that, because we actually have to have them sign a form
To allow you to
so we
access.
can actually go in and get the information.
Because I've looked up taxes and I'm like, man, I can't find this guy's taxes. And I go, oh yeah, he's in law enforcement.
Right. That's the first thing we say if we can't find something.
Because you can easily
Ask-
find someone's address
Right.
searching through the public property tax record. Simply as that. So you started so young. I mean, my question was, what led you into it? You kind of explained. You just decided when you went back to work to get into title. It just became a passion for you. That
It really,
like, hey,
you either love it or you don't. I mean, it is definitely that. And I was always in operations until 2014. So I did all the operation stuff. I was operations manager for the state of a different company that I was working for that was national. So that is really my background, is finding all the quirky things and getting them taken care of. So now when I get title that has, something funny on it, I'm like, ooh.
you kind of have an idea where to go.
Let me look
That was
at
a
this
challenge.
Yeah. So I kind of, when I went into sales, it was after the recession. So I had gone back to banking for about 4 years. And when I was approached a couple of different times, but they asked me to go into sales, and I'm like, I'm not a salesperson. But then I'm selling something that you need. I'm not going to ask you if you want a MasterCard with your checking account or whatever. And I love it. I love title, actually.
Right.
It's just, and so sales was easy because I feel like that's what I know, and I'm not asking you for something that you don't need. Also,
do you feel, because give you an example? I mean, I've been in the business 16 years. I spent roughly 12 of it in a call center doing a lot of loans, doing a lot of credit reports, seeing what loans could. So my confidence level coming out was high, knowing the loans was. But now, back in, I guess it was 17, I came out and actually started more interacting with the agents like you do.
right.
But because I had all this experience, I actually had more experience than the average guy who's doing what I do right now.
Right.
If they've only done it that way, because they only wrote a few loans a month, where I was writing 20, 30, 40 loans a month in a call center, because it's a volume-based business.
Right.
That you come out. So the sales part actually is easy because of your confidence.
Right, because and they can call me on the weekend, they can call me in the evening, and if they just have a question, I mean, that's how I got a few of my customers. They couldn't get a hold of their regular person,
Right.
and they called me on the weekend, and I said, well, this is what you need to do, and we just go back and forth and figure it out. It might take me 5 minutes,
Right.
because I already know.
You've been there.
Right.
You had enough at bats.
Right.
Your experience of it, and if you
Right.
didn't know the answer, you knew where to go get the answer.
Absolutely.
Or someone that you rely on to call on for
Right.
those off.
Because there's always going to be a time where there's something kind of quirky, and I'm not sure, or I don't know it all, and I do know who to call, and then I call them back. Right.
So I think it was, if I read correctly, in 2018 you went to this title that you have now.
Yes.
All right. So
2018.
the director of sales and marketing.
Right.
And any of you guys know that out there, obviously with Lisa's experience, she's a valuable player at Golden Dog with her knowledge and in leadership, really, is really what brings it all together. But the average person probably out there going, well, what does a director of sales do for a title company, right? They think like title companies like, it's like going to the grocery store, but it's not. You've
Right.
got to sell it.
Absolutely.
You got some competition.
There's tons of competition out there, but it is for title, we all provide the exact same service.
Right.
And so it's the level of service that you provide is going to make the difference. And so that is really what I'm out there doing, is making sure that they understand what the level of the service is and who we are. Because we were a brand new company, really, when I started. We'd
Right.
been open for a couple of years, but we weren't doing anything other than the builder
Builder
thing.
stuff.
And so I was brought in to do the resale.
Right.
So that was my main goal, to bring in people to do the resale and
Right.
to know that
Now
we
you
can
cross
do all
over
that.
both. You bring in the resale and help the builder
I
make
do.
sure they get their
Yes.
stuff closed.
Yes, I do both of
So
those now. Yep.
So when you're out, and there's an agent listening right now who may be, and I'm going to make some comments here, but I want Lisa, I say, when you are presenting Golden Dog to some of these new agents, they don't know the difference between one title company to the next.
Right.
What are some of the things that they can rely on that Golden Dog's going to do to make that customer experience ultimate?
Well, so we have attorneys that are on staff every day also. So it's not just me, because sometimes people want to, even if I have the right answer for them, they still want to hear it from an attorney. So we have attorneys on staff. We have 11 licensed title agents. And I know that, again, for an agent, they may not think that's any big deal, but that's a huge deal. When I first moved to Florida, you only had one in an office, because that's all is required, is to have one licensed title agent. We have 3 or 4 in every office that we have.
Right.
So you can rely on the fact that we know we have the knowledge, and we will get everything done that they want to get done.
Right. Because everything's not cookie cutter. I mean, there's some stuff, I think as we go west, we're going to run into, some old land titles over there as the builder goes west, and I'm sure you're working with them as they're
Right.
buying up their
Way.
big lots at a time. But it's not the same thing every time. People are buying properties where someone didn't do it correctly.
Right.
And I my personal experience, not to downplay some of the just law firms that do title work. You are a title company that has lawyers versus the law firm that does real estate,
right.
title work. And in that lawyer is doing other things, probably getting paid a lot more money for some of the other things where our Golden Dogs attorneys are on staff. This is what they do.
This is what we do.
They're not
Right.
handling someone's accident case.
No, right.
Yeah.
And they're not there's not a separate charge for this from that firm. It's within your title search
Right.
and That's it.
Right.
Because we were only allowed to charge your closing fee and search fee.
Right.
That's it. So
The rest
everything
are all
needs to
state
be
mandatory, state
Yep.
regulated.
Yeah, the title insurance is promulgated, so it's the same no matter where you go.
Right.
Right.
Right. I had a thought, but I'm gonna go to my next question. I'm gonna come back to it here in a second. I was obviously doing my background check on you as much as you put out there. I wouldn't say you're a social media queen,
Nope.
but you have a little bit on there. And one thing I see come up a lot is the Women's Council of Realtors. You're very involved in that.
Yes.
Tell me what you do there and what they're all about.
So Women's Council of Realtors is, they're nationwide also. The Jacksonville network is about 65 realtors. And we do different things, but people that are in Women's Council, they're all about education. They have special designations within Women's Council for the realtors to get.
Mm-hmm.
I've been the membership director there. I've done the marketing there. I've done secretary, whatever. I've done officer
all
work.
the board positions.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're a great network of people. You don't have to be a woman. We've had
is
even
that
male
right?
presidents. Yep. You don't have to be a
Wow.
woman. But that's how it started out, was back in, I want to say, the 40s. They didn't have anything for the women, and only men were the realtors.
Right.
And really the majority of realtors now are women.
Yes.
And so that was started back then to kind of build everybody up and get them out there.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do the statistics, the realtors that are in Women's Council of Realtors earn more money statistically than those that are not in that network.
So dip into that a little bit. So you said there's only 65, and there's thousands of female agents, let alone the males, but there's thousands of agents in the greater Jacksonville area. So, what benefits are you mentioned education, but be more specific. What kind of, if someone joined the council, what are some of the things that they would?
They have different designations because, there's lots of different designations that the realtors have.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all about the education for that. And the referral network within the state and within the country.
Oh.
They'll pick someone from Women's Council before they'll pick someone else.
Say from another same brokerage like a
Right.
Keller Williams or a Coldwell
Right.
Banker or something like
Right.
that. Interesting. So those listening that are not part of the Women's Council, sounds like they need to get involved. I mean,
There's a networking thing this Wednesday at 4:30. And
I've seen it, and I try to be as active as possible in the boards.
It's a Mexican
St.
place
Augustine-
downtown.
Mexican place downtown. We'll have to get that out there. I've seen it. I was like, oh well,
just
it's
saw
the
this
Women's
morning.
Council. I'll walk in there and be the only guy, but I guess I probably won't.
No, you won't.
Mm.
And we've had a couple of different male presidents, and actually we had for the state we had a male president about 2 years ago.
Excellent.
So it's for everybody.
It is.
Yes.
All right. Super. All right. Now, I admire you because I obviously read books here, John Maxwell Leadership and so forth. I obviously I don't work under you in any way. I'm not watching you in the office, but whenever I'm panicking, when it comes to, I call you, and things get done. So obviously there must be a high level of respect in your office and so forth. So your leadership presence, Aurora, there must be strong. Are you a podcast listener? Are you a book reader? What do you do to stay on sharp?
Well, I do. I'm involved in different councils. So Women's Council. I'm in Mandarin Council and Southwest Council, and actually we're starting a group for just title people. That might be coming.
So a lot of masterminds.
Right.
Everyone's calling a mastermind
Right.
these days. You're doing a lot of that. Yeah.
And trying to figure out what's happening. And I also am one to. You get panic situation. Tell me what it is,
Are you
and
the
I'm going
mom
to go to
in
the
the
bottom.
office?
I am. Well, I don't know about the mom, but I am the one where let's find the problem and let's figure out how we're going to take care of it smoothly, quickly, and it's done.
Right.
And it's going to happen
Right.
for sure.
It's amazing because there's been books written by people who have probably done it far less than you have, and made millions of dollars. But whatever you're doing is above and beyond, and one day you'll walk away from Golden Dog because you'll just want to, like, whatever your hobby is, or go traveling or whatever it is. Maybe we'll talk about that in a minute, but obviously will be a great loss. Hopefully you can mentor someone, because I think
Yes.
John Maxwell says it best: the best leaders are ones who create other leaders. And,
Absolutely. And that's why we have 11, not just because of me, but I mean 11 licensed title people, because we want everyone to be their best. I don't want to be
problem solver.
Yes, you need to be right behind me. I don't want to have to be. I don't want to have to be there.
Right.
You should be able to do it without me, and that's what I always want people to do. Lift them up. I want everybody to know what I know or more.
So, I think a lot of things, and to dig a little deeper into the title part, because being in the business 16 years, what exactly are you doing? And I think, we're clearing the title. Oh, okay. All right. Or making sure the title's clear, and then we're sure. What if you don't have to dig in too deep? Maybe I might ask a question to dig a little deeper and learn myself. But I know oftentimes, obviously, you get a contract. Any title company is involved in it. They want that title order right away, which I want, like same way I want my application signed right away, because I want to get it in process.
Right.
Because I imagine if there is any bumps, we can solve them and still close on time.
Right.
It's
exactly.
pretty straightforward there. But what are the basic processes of that that when we order the title search as a lender? What are the things that are going on sight unseen by really the agent and the lender right up to closing?
So we're ensuring that the person that is selling actually owns the property.
Right.
That no one else has any interest in it, and there are not any liens or judgments against it. And that's when you're getting an owner's policy. It's you're getting that from the day you purchase backwards. So that if anything ever came up, let's just take an example of years ago, maybe 2004 or 5. There was a builder who's no longer around that told all of his customers, you don't need an owner's policy because you're getting it from us, and we just got it.
Yeah.
But you're getting a special warranty deed, and what's special about that is that it is from. That is special because it's from the time they purchased it from the developer until the time they're giving it to the buyer. So it's only really insuring that period of time. Anything before that doesn't help. So if you have an owner's policy, that covers all of that.
So that's a great question. Owner's policy, highly recommended. And a lot of times the seller actually pays for it. Am I not mistaken?
In Northeast Florida, that is what is customary.
For the owner to pay for it, because that is with you forever. Now, give us an example, and I'm sure you have come across many. And I had a friend that actually was on the title insurance side, and he, how they solve these claims that come in. Give us an example of what could happen.
So that example is that I was going to give was that this builder said they didn't do the owner's policy, and at that time, seller pays for it, so the builder was paying for it.
Right. So he was saving himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, probably he really didn't think, and whatever, it was a big company.
Yeah. Oh, it's just an insurance policy.
Right.
You'll never use it.
Absolutely. And what happened was there was somebody that owned part of that land, and each person in that neighborhood had to pay their portion of the claim when it came down to it. So unfortunately for that whole neighborhood, they all owed a portion of that money on the title claim.
Right. Someone had previously owned it. They did not settle with them.
Someone had died and there was an heir that was missed.
Right. Yeah, an heir that was missed did not get their payout from the sale of it, so didn't sign off on the clearance of the title. And obviously, it's rare. It's kind of like when people get life insurance.
Absolutely, it is
but
rare.
It happens.
Right.
It happens all sorts of things.
Well, I mean, I can tell you another example we had of one. It was at a different company I was working for, and a lady bought a flip. Mm-hmm. And so when she was getting it all ready, her neighbor next door kept saying, what about that water, the water treatment thing? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And just kind of blew him off because, she didn't know what he's talking about. Well, it was a neighborhood that had mobile homes on it before, so the lots were smaller, and they had a water treatment system that they all had to have, and they got inspected every year by the health department. So when they came around to inspect hers, she didn't have one. So she tried to put a claim against title, and that would have been in your Schedule B2. I know I'm getting a little bit technical, but it would be something that would not necessarily be covered by title insurance because it was an exception to title. However, the underwriter happened to have done a typo, and when it was on Schedule B2, it didn't tell them, it didn't disclose that that's what it was, and so they actually paid out $12,000 to get her water treatment in there.
back in place.
Now, had it been on there, she would have just been out of luck. So
Or she might have walked out of the sale because the expense of it or
right.
whatever.
So you always want to get your title commitment as a buyer, so you can see what's not going to be covered under your title insurance.
Because you might have some, what's the terminology I want to use? Depending where you might be, where the county might be assessing you. Mm-hmm. And you miss that assessment, not realize, oh yeah, my taxes are this, but I got this other assessment over here.
Right.
And it might be something you don't want to pay.
Right, because when you're looking at the commitment, the very first page shows who actually owns the property, gives a legal description, which we need to check to make sure it's correct, because sometimes the legal description is not correct. And then B1 shows what we need to do to close, and B2 is really for the buyer. These are what are not going to be covered. Mm-hmm. We had another one where there was the properties out in Keystone Heights, and there's a lot of timber liens and stuff that go on out there, timber rights. And the buyer looked at their title commitment. And they said, "Well, wait a minute, we want this." So we had to go back and look at the title commitment and see what it was. And we found the company that owned those rights. And the seller paid for half, and they paid for the other half to get the rights fully to them instead of the company
for their
that
lot.
had them. Mm-hmm.
Because there was another company had the timber rights to it.
Right.
Interesting.
So mineral rights
and probably really had no intentions of ever going. I mean, it's this lot. How many trees are
the guy that they bought it from didn't even know it was on there, and it had been on there, and he'd owned it since the 70s, and that was put on there in the 40s. So they hadn't done anything with it.
No,
but the buyers wanted it. So
that's
fair. Right.
That's smart to clear it. Who knows? The son inherits it and finds out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's involved.
Right.
Do we have a Facebook question? Did you?
No.
Okay. All right. Great. All right, so we got owners.
People watching.
There are people watching. So, owner's title policy. You're going back in there, making sure there's no assessments or crazy things like the tree thing there. What else are we doing? What's the next step in your process as it goes down through your production line?
So as far as getting the payoffs and making sure taxes are paid and ordering the estoppel. So if you're in an HOA. Then we have to order estoppel, which...
Let's explain the term estoppel because, we see that. I see that a lot. Obviously, doing a condo, that's generally where you see those, right?
Well, anything that's in a plan unit development is going to have an estoppel.
You got to pay the estoppel fee, right? What is the estoppel?
So the estoppel is...
German. This has got to be German. Right? I figure it's related.
Yeah. Sounds like it. So it's the estoppel, which is what we send to the HOA to ensure that there aren't any violations against the property. So they might have we had one where there was, it happens to be the neighborhood I live in, but they had put a dock out along the pond and it's not allowed. So before they could sell it, it had to be removed. Right. Yeah. Or they may have not cut their grass. They may have painted the house a different color, whatever. Right. Or they may owe the association money for not paying their HOA. And for condos, they may have regulations of it has to be approved for someone to move in. And we don't have a whole lot of that in North Florida, but that's very common in South Florida.
Right. So you're going to find that when you get the estoppel of the restrictions. The dock obviously is important. I think to keep a community whole. Yeah, the new person buying it may want the dock, but in reality, the community does not allow. Right. And to get that corrected before closing is better for the whole community there. All right, estoppel.
And so that's the thing so years ago, you could either get them free. They were $50. The HOA companies could charge whatever they wanted. And then kind of during the recession and as things were happening.
2008, 9.
In South Florida, you would be charged up to $1,000. I mean, they could charge whatever they wanted.
Yeah, covering
they
losses.
Could charge whatever they wanted. But the Realtors, the RPAC, I guess is who did it. The PAC, the Realtors PAC, went for a few years and got the legislature to max it. Yeah. So
smart.
Yeah. So and the reason they were kind of fighting it was because some places didn't charge, and then they assumed that they would automatically charge $250 once they said that was the max you could charge.
Right.
And that did kind of happen, but it helped more than it hurt everywhere else in Florida.
Yeah. I mean, they're recouping losses and they're holding you hostage.
Right.
Because you need that or you're not closing.
Right.
And so someone's going to pay the $1,000, whatever they're crazy. What is since we're on estoppel, when you're doing title work, The difference primarily between, obviously we do a lot of PUDs, the planned urban developments, but just the difference between, your typical single family home versus a condo. What are some of the kind of things that you do differently in that regards?
Well, you don't need a survey for a condo.
Right, that saves you there.
That saves you. And you have to, there are certain endorsements that the lender is going to require. So you have, and really Florida has a lot of endorsements compared to some of the other states. And they require a survey when some of the other states don't require it. Like
Right.
most states don't require it, actually. Doesn't make sense really, but they should. So it's just the difference is, what it's going to be the endorsements that the lender's going to require for that.
Right. I mean, did you see like most arguments between neighbors is going to be like something that's that's not or on the survey? Not on the survey or not on the survey?
Are we going to talk about surveys? Because this is the thing.
Well, I got too far, but I mean, which side that tree is on, who's responsible for the tree,
so the survey is a big deal.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is, and it saves the seller money if you don't get a new survey. And I tell my agents this all the time. If I'm the buyer's agent, I'm always going to ask for a new survey. Because you don't know what even though I said I didn't do anything different on my house, my next door neighbor may have.
Right.
And if they could have moved the fence or they could have done something that got onto my property. So I want my own new survey every time. But that is not what is popular right now.
Yes, I would. That's a very good point. I never thought about that, but that is 100% right. It's kind of like I'm a big pre-listing inspection person. I think the person lists the house and has a pre-inspection and knocks all that having the survey done is just saving. I mean, could be catastrophic. It's like getting an insurance policy or not getting the insurance policy. You don't know when you might use it, but when it comes, you're like, man, why didn't I just spend that $350, $400 to get that survey done?
Right, but it's a big. It really is it could save you some money. And people that have found, we have actually one of our underwriters that does some classes for us. Actually had his own problem with the survey where he bought the property and used an old one, knowing full well that he probably shouldn't have. When he went to sell, the pool was put over some kind of line. It ended up costing like $70,000 to get it fixed.
Yeah, and what $300, $400, $500 could have awakened him to that.
It doesn't. Again, that doesn't happen all the time, but it is in the top 10 of claims that the underwriter will get.
Wow.
It'll be something to do with
catastrophic.
Survey.
That's so important. Because I see it having been on a CDD board where people come in and they want approved to build a pool that encroaches on the easement.
Right.
And they want, and obviously they're smart. They go in there and they get the CDD board to sign off saying it's okay. If they just went in and built the pool, it could be catastrophic when they go to So I mean, man, that's a $1 million tidbit right there. We're gonna move forward a little bit just for time purposes. Preparing your documents, what's going on? I see the emails go back and forth between our closer and your person down there that's balancing. What are you guys focused on that versus and just to get that balanced? I mean, what are they scanning? What are they making sure is squared away?
So that can be off just by a few cents when you're looking at that, where where your proration may be a little bit different or your per diem is a little bit different, and that's what's coming out. But I want to backtrack a little bit.
Okay, sure.
When we're looking at title and when they've applied for the loan, we have to go by whatever the contract says. So if it says Lisa K. Andrews and my loan says Lisa Andrews, the title and all of our documents are going to come out Lisa K. because we have to match the contract. So
can I add the tidbit here, and I think you would agree with me? Get the person's driver's license, agent. Take their driver's license, ask them, is that how they're going to have a title? Because as a lender, we're getting their driver's license, and we're, because we want to make sure the name's spelled correctly.
Right.
And if they have Lisa K. Andrews on the driver's license, that's how you should write the contract.
Right. Or if you don't want it, I could take it L. Andrews. Because I can take it however I want, because I know I've had some single unmarried women that don't necessarily want public records to show that you don't know if it's a man or a woman, so they're just kind of doing it like that. So I can do it. I can take title. I can take.
That's back when they wouldn't allow women to buy houses.
I had it this
I
year.
remember my grandmother telling me about
year.
that.
Right. But, so you can take title the way you want. You can take it T. Hayes or whatever, but so you just need to do the contract how they want to take title, because that's
Right.
going to make the difference.
Well, that's where I think different lenders have a policy. I know for us, and I conflicted with me when I first got here, because they wanted, what's on the driver's license? Because I'm like, well, no, you ask them how they want to take title, but you want to make sure every document
Right.
is, so, because when you, like you said, when you sign, if they have their middle initial in there, they got to sign with their middle
Right.
initial, right?
Right.
At the end. So
Right.
now we talked a little bit, since we're on this subject, married or not married.
Yep.
Yeah, Florida, if you're married and you're not legally divorced, you both have to be there at closing,
Right.
whether you're on the mortgage or not.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we
if
don't.
it's your homestead property, if you're buying it as primary residence.
yeah.
Right.
Primary residence.
Right.
So you're getting divorced, and one spouse wants to go off and buy another home, but you're not finalized with that divorce. The other spouse has to sign, not on the note,
Right.
but as because that's going to be the other spouse's primary residence.
Right.
Even though one spouse is staying in the current home.
Right.
They would have to still sign on the other.
Right. So when they're doing that,
Mm-hmm.
then they should take title as themselves a married person, whoever that is.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, when the divorce does go final, that person's the only one on there.
And then how we talked about you, because you said you don't do it at closing, but I'm sure you know how it works. I mean, so they finally do get divorced. So now they want to just remove that one person from title. That was the agreement, or maybe the house that they are living in together, and they get divorced, and the wife's going to get the house, the husband's going to sign it over. How difficult is it to actually file that quitclaim deed? Is there a lot of steps to that?
They'll need to get an attorney to prepare it.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anything that's done outside of closing, we cannot do it.
Right.
They'll need to get an attorney to prepare it. But a lot of times in their marital settlement agreement and the final dissolution of marriage, if it is worded correctly, that recorded does it. So it's just kind of according to...
So the recording of the actual divorce agreement saying one spouse will take ownership of the home.
And the wording is kind of tricky, but the attorney should know how to
Put it in there correctly.
Yes.
Correctly.
Yes.
But I will put this tidbit in here. If you both are on the mortgage, you can, if you signed over your entire rights to the other spouse, but you're still on the mortgage and they haven't refinanced, and they don't make a payment, you still get hit.
Talking about still on the note. You're talking about.
It's
right?
on the note. It's on the
Yes.
mortgage. Yeah, the mortgage.
Right, because that was a big thing.
A lot of
back
people
in
think,
the
"Oh, I got
day.
divorced. She didn't make the payments. Not me. It had nothing to do with me. I got divorced." No, if
It's
you're
still going to be included in your debt ratio too.
You
right.
want to be refinanced off of there.
Right.
It's just as much as I wouldn't give up ownership until you're refinanced off of there.
Right.
You don't want to give up your rights, because now you have no leverage.
Right.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Anything more we want to add to that? I want to finish with this, because this is the thing I want to talk about here. To me, the most important thing, as I've gone to other title companies and gone around, there's only a handful. I don't even know if it's a handful. I don't know how many I can fit in my hand, but how important is the closer, their charisma, their talent, their confidence? Especially when the builder business is one thing, because it is your business. We're part of the business. But when you're going out marketing to people, that their customers are going to have, hopefully walk you out of that title company with a positive experience, because who knows, something might have gone bad. You're the last people that touched them.
Right.
How important is it to have that right person administering that closing?
You need to have a good closer and someone that is friendly and is knowledgeable, because you don't know what kind of questions will come. So when I sit down to do a closing, I'll say, I'm going to explain to you the docs. If I'm going too slow, you just tell me to go. If I'm not explaining enough, you tell me to slow down and let me help
Right.
you. Is this your first time? Is this your first home? Because that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Because they really don't know what they're signing, and honestly, it doesn't matter because they have to sign every document.
Yeah.
In the end,
You have no.
But you want them to be.
If you want to own the
comfortable.
house, you have to sign the document.
Right, but you want to be comfortable.
Right.
And there's questions that comes out like portability and how do I file my homestead and where's my first payment going to go?
Well, a lot of times I don't even know to ask that.
Right.
And that experienced agent, because I've obviously sat through the closings here, and some good. I've sat at other poor closings where you can hear a pin drop, and you're like, everyone's just sitting in the room waiting for the next thing to happen. But to have that agent the closing agent, I guess we call them closing agents. Is that what you, yeah.
Or escrow officer.
Yeah, I mean, they have a routine, and there's some laughter in there. They know when to throw in the joke. It is a routine because they are doing the same thing over and over again. How many times a day, right? Last day of the month. I mean, are they doing like 10, 12 closings? Some of them, yeah. Yes. So they're in there, and you got to do that routine, but they got to take the pressure out. And understand the mention, the portability, make sure they understand it, where it's at, because they don't remember when they walk out the door.
Right.
But where it's at in the documents.
Right.
Did you give them some sort of info sheet, that sort of thing. But just taking the air. So the agents out there, when you're looking for a title company, you're obviously consider Lisa and her team at Golden Dog. That's part of it. Bring someone over, sit in on the closing, and watch how it happens. I see too many. Agents, because as the lender, we go wherever they tell us to go, right? And we go sit down in that office, and it's like, okay, you're doing business with this closer that is really bad. Everybody in the room is like, this is not a great experience. This is the modern age. It's all about how you made them feel, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes it might be bad in the beginning, and maybe there's some kind of other issue. I've walked in and had someone else leave just because I know that it's not good. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like I will make it better because it's already not a good situation. So I'll go in and we'll talk and we'll figure it out. And sometimes it will never work, but most of the time we're all laughing in the end, and it's a positive experience.
You guys do such a great job.
It's a huge thing when you buy a house. I always say that it's a life-changing event. You just got married, you just got divorced, you have more kids, you're downsizing, there's a death. I mean, it is something new that's happening because you're not just doing it every day.
It's a life event, and like I mentioned in the last podcast, that we've literally closed deals where we have to get their pay stub a couple days before closing to show they have enough money to get in there.
Right.
And they're going in on their shoestrings to go into home ownership. But I think, just when we were just talking about this in a second, we do so many new construction, and new construction we're accustomed to it. Nothing ever goes perfect. Right. It never closes on time. They were supposed to close 3 months ago, or now all of a sudden they're like, hey, yeah, you're closing in 30 days. Oh, I planned that trip. I'm going to Oshkosh Bagosh. Nothing ever times right, and people get ticked off. And, obviously we're not dealing with real taxes. We're projecting taxes the best we can. Yep. We try to prepare them for that. But there's always a little anxiety there, and I think new construction adds it. So your team has had a lot more at-bats with this stuff on how to just make that closing a little more pleasant for some of those loans that or some of those loans or deals or builds or whatever it is, just had a little bumpy road, and but we got to get it done, and they leave with a smile. Right. No, that is what's making me happy. I love when they leave with a smile, and we can actually get them in there. Yep, they get the puppy. Yeah. But they get to move in when they want to move in, and they're not sitting out there with the trailer full of furniture. Yes. Unfortunately, that does not happen, and I will say, nobody likes that. We all know that. If you're a customer out there, whether it's Lisa's team or my team at Jet or anybody, we know this is going on, and there's only certain things we can do, whether it's a compliance thing or obviously the builder has to get certificate of occupancy, all that other jazz going on. Yeah, lots of things can happen, but we want to make it, as the best that we can, and bring in food, bring in puppies, bring in whatever we need to make it good. We've done it all. We could talk on forever, but if there was one thing that you could get every single agent to do that you work with, whether it's us, our team here, Jet, or many agents that you have come in and bringing you a non-builder business to you, that could just make your job a little bit easier, your team's job a little bit easier, what would be that one thing? So I do have certain agents that do it, but if they could put a timeline down, I have an agent, a few, that they give an exact timeline, and they put their commissions down in any kind of transaction fee. They're getting you that information in advance. Right. So we have it there, and everyone has the expectation. The selling agent, the buyer, the seller, everyone has that same information, and it makes it a lot easier to into closing. They send me the contract, for example. I get the initial disclosures out the client signs it. We order title. So within 3 or 4 days of everything getting started, you have this timeline of what's on that contract of when and things are supposed to be done, and setting expectations up front. Yeah, so that's probably mostly the resale stuff, because
that timeline is a little bit different, but that just gives everybody the expectation, and we know what the commissions are, because back in the day, they were on the contract. And now they're not, so we always have to call and verify and make sure that they're right, and
if you're getting a lender credit,
exactly, yeah.
The realtor credit, not lender credit. Lender credits are easy.
Yeah.
Realtor credits, please, get those up front.
Right.
Whatever commitment that you've given, because that's though I obviously the strain in compliance. I tell the clients, it's only going to be on the final, because there's compliance things that need to go through that would not too many interested party credits are in there to violate what they're allowed.
Right.
And so they leave the realtor credit over to the side, and then at the last moment they'll stick it in there and what they can use of it and put it there. What do you think? This is my last formal question. Let's put it that way. The biggest misconceptions of buyers and sellers when it comes to the title company. What is it they don't know?
They think we're the lender. I'd say 80% of the time they think we're the lender.
Well, I think 80% of the time they think we're the lender is the title company, because they want to send us the money.
Right, right. So I think that they don't understand what we are, which I understand they don't know, because most people don't buy a house more than a few times in a lifetime.
Right,
so
right.
they don't necessarily know, but they think that we are the lender. Mm-hmm. And so they think that we have that answer.
Right.
And we don't usually.
Asking you a particular
Right.
A loan particular question.
Right.
So the lender is doing the loan questions. The money, the conduit of all the money is the title company. That's what I do.
Right.
You're handling all the money. The lender's sending you a
Right.
large lump sum. You're cutting checks. Maybe debts need to be paid off. Or you're paying off the seller, paying the realtors. You're
Right.
the conduit of all that.
So that's why we have the ALTA settlement statement, because before the CFPB came in, we had the HUD and everything was on that. Well, now we have the closing disclosure, and the buyer can't see the seller's closing disclosure, seller can't see the buyer's. So we have to have something that everybody signs that shows all the disbursements. So we are the one that's handling all of that, and everyone is signing saying, yes, we agree with what's happening.
So the government said with the closing disclosure, they didn't want the two parties to see each other's, like the proceeds the seller's getting.
Too much information. There was too
much information.
Yes.
But you guys are giving them the information on the ALTA.
Yes, but yes, we are. But we're not giving like, I think there's like Social Security numbers on some of the stuff.
Yeah, right.
So it's
right,
that
right.
kind of thing. But remember so I've done it for a long time, and so originally the HUD didn't have any of the loan information, and then they changed it in 2010 and had all their loan information on the last page, which I was like, but it's like that, fine. So that's what they took off really, and then they each made their own. So
interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. All right, I'm going to wrap it up with my 2-minute warning questions. We have Facebook Live fans with any questions? Anybody?
They're on, but no one's asking.
No one's asking questions. They know it all. We're giving them so much information. Even we've only got the tip of the iceberg here today. More important, who you know or what you know?
I don't know if there is a better answer on that, because I feel like it is who you know, but you don't even know who to go to if you don't know. Does that make sense? Like, I have to know who to ask, but I need to know who that person is.
That is true.
So,
if you don't ask the question, you can't get the answer.
Right.
To find out who that is. All right, you're out on the town. I know you get out a little bit. Are you a Jaguars, Jumbo Shrimp, or an Iceman?
Jaguars.
Jaguars. Okay. What's on Lisa's travel bucket list?
Well, I'm planning on going to Greece next year. Well, in 2023, I'm doing a girls trip.
Girls trip.
Next year.
Next
year, we're just going to go to Jamaica for a bunch of girls that we all graduate high school together.
Oh, that's cool.
We're doing that. But so when I retire at some point in time, that will be my thing, is to travel, stay somewhere that I'm not familiar with, and hang out with the natives, wherever that may be, for a month.
Yes.
And see what it's really like to live there, not just the tourist stuff.
That is so cool. I've mentioned on the podcast before. I mean, I was in high school. I was fortunate enough to go to Sweden, and we were only there a week, but we did at least 3 or 4 nights of homestays, living with a family, and it's just even it's just that little bit of experience. But yeah, to be able to go and stay a month or whatever, and actually live there, shop there, buy your groceries, how they do things.
Right.
And, is I think it's one of the treasures. I think learning about different cultures.
Right.
You can do that right here in the United States, though.
Oh,
too.
well, absolutely. Well, my husband's family's from England, so I was able to take my daughter there back in 2000. Well, we went a couple times, but in 2012, and it was, to me, it wasn't culture shock, but it was like, it was culture shock for her. It was just so different, even though, it's not.
Right. I think every young person, I wish they did the exchanges and stuff they used to do. They don't do them, for whatever reasons now, too many lawyers. I wish that is, to me, that's part of growing up and understanding our world, as small as it's gotten with communication and
no, absolutely. It's wonderful to see the way people live. I mean, you go to the grocery store every day because your refrigerator's this tall. That's what you do.
Or living in a city versus living in a suburbs, like
Right.
we're so used to. You go, especially in the Asian countries, as I've been to Taiwan, to them, they live in the cities on top. You think like they are literally living on top of each other. They ride down the street on a moped and they've got the whole family on it.
Right. Yeah. That's just scary.
Yeah. There's no OSHA So, Lisa, someone's listening here today, and there's an agent out there that's open for learning more about Golden Dog Title and possibly using them for their transactions. What's the best way to reach you?
So you can reach me on my cell at 904-476-1966. I have it on me all the time. You can email me at lisa.andrews@goldendogtitle.com. or go on to our website.
Right. And then Lisa and I regularly are having trainings here in the building that are going on. If you want to get on, Lisa takes care of a mailing list to get on there and announce when those trainings is. We bring people in just to, add value.
Right.
To
and
what
I have
we
one
do.
this Wednesday at 11 o'clock at the Phillips Highway office in the training room upstairs. And it is for business planning, goal setting, business planning. And it's lunch and learn, so you get food.
Sharpen your sword. Come join us. Yes, you get free food, and maybe we'll give you some trinkets too.
Yes.
Maybe you might leave with some hand sanitizers or something. Well, Lisa, I appreciate you coming on. We definitely want. Definitely want to probably have you on a regular basis, maybe every 6 months or so, to tell some title stories, because I think. We did a lot of facts. We told a couple stories, but facts tell, stories sell.
Right.
And it's really those knowing why the importance of that title company, why that is the stories of the tragedies or the tragedies that could have been that you saved.
Right.
Those stories are so valuable.
Right.
So
And there's lots of those, Tracy.
many.
I really appreciate you having me on today, though.
Yes, thank you.